She walked into that conference room 10 years later. Polished, powerful, sitting across from the man who once threw milk at her in front of everyone. He didn't recognize her. But she recognized him. And the quiet boy who stood up for her back then? He was sitting right beside the bully, about to witness something neither of them saw coming. Welcome back to Acts of Kindness Stories, where real kindness writes the best stories. Ridgeview High sat on the edge of a small Ohio town, its brick walls echoing with locker slams, laughter, and the kind of teenage cruelty that adults pretend doesn't exist. In the middle of the noisy cafeteria, at table 12 by the far wall, Lena Brooks tried to make herself invisible. It never worked. 17, Lena was smart, funny, and kind, but most people never bothered to find that out. They saw her size first. She was heavier than the other girls, with round cheeks and soft arms. Her clothes were basic, her hair always pulled back in a low ponytail. She walked with her shoulders slightly hunched, more from habit than anything else. Across the room, Chad Miller stood on a table, loud and confident. He was the star forward of the Ridgeview Ravens basketball team. Tall, broad, with a grin that teachers loved and a cruelty he only showed when adults looked away. His friends circled him like planets around a sun. "Hey Brooks," he shouted over the cafeteria noise. "You gonna finish that, or is it just a warm-up?" A few kids snickered. Lena froze over her tray, cheeks burning. She had one small slice of pizza and an apple. She wished she could vanish. "Come on, Chad," someone muttered from a nearby table. "Leave her alone." But no one stood up. No one moved. Chad grabbed a milk carton from his friend's tray, shook it and smirked. "Catch Brooks." He tossed it toward her table. The carton burst against her shoulder, cold milk splattering across her shirt and onto her notebook. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Lena stared at the white stains spreading over her notes, her throat tight, eyes burning. "Oops," Chad said dramatically. "Guess I underestimated my throw. Didn't mean to hit that much surface area." More laughter. Louder now. Lena swallowed, fighting the urge to cry. And then a chair scraped back from table 10. A quiet voice cut through the noise. "Enough." Ethan Ward was not the kind of guy people expected to challenge anyone. He wasn't on any team. He liked graphic novels, science podcasts, and sitting in the back of class. His jeans were always a little too long, his t-shirts always a little too plain. But he had one problem. He couldn't stand watching unfairness and doing nothing. Ethan walked straight toward Lena's table, his heart pounding, palms sweaty. His legs wanted to turn around, but his conscience wouldn't let him. Chad raised an eyebrow. "Really, Ward? You lost or something?" Ethan kept his voice steady. "Leave her alone." The cafeteria went quiet. Chad hopped off the table. "What did you say?" "You heard me," Ethan replied. "You're done. Sit down. Eat your food. Find a personality that isn't built on making other people miserable." Someone choked on their fries. Chad took a step closer. He was taller, heavier, trained. Ethan knew he'd probably lose in a fight. His hands still didn't shake. Lena stared stunned. No one had ever done this. "You gonna make me, Ward?" Chad sneered. Ethan shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe coach hears you've been spending less time at practice and more time throwing milk at girls who never did a thing to you." A few teammates looked away. Chad's jaw clenched. "You're not worth a suspension," he muttered. "Keep your pet, Ward." He turned away. The laughter faded. His friends shifted, uneasy. Ethan exhaled slowly and turned to Lena. "You okay?" She nodded weakly, eyes glassy. I'm fine." "You don't look fine." He grabbed a stack of napkins. "Here, let's get this cleaned up." They dabbed the milk off her notes together. Lena's voice came out small. You didn't have to do that." "I did," he said simply, sitting opposite her. "I'm Ethan." "I know," she said. "You're in my English class. You answered that question about of mice and men, like you swallowed the dictionary." He blushed. "Yeah, that sounds like me." She laughed softly, small but real. He nodded toward her ruined notes. Want help rewriting those after school? I'm decent with handwriting. No milk included. Lena hesitated. No one had ever offered to study with her before. Okay, she whispered. Sure. And that afternoon in the corner of the school library, they rewrote those pages together. Between whispered jokes and shy smiles, a quiet friendship began. The kind built on seeing someone for who they really are, not what the world decides they should be. Over the next few months, Ethan and Lena grew close. They studied together, shared snacks, and swapped playlists. He learned she had a sharp sense of humor and could do mental math faster than most calculators. She learned he loved astronomy and secretly wrote short stories on his phone. One evening at the library, as they sat surrounded by textbooks, Ethan finally asked, "Why do you never tell anyone about what they say to you?" "The teachers." "Your mom." "Someone." Lena stared at the table. "I don't want to be the problem," she said quietly. "If I complain, it becomes the Lena situation. I just want to blend in." "You don't blend in," he said softly. "You stand out. In a good way." She rolled her eyes. "You're biased. You like my terrible jokes." "They're not terrible," he said. "They're advanced." She smiled, then took a shaky breath. "When I was little, my pediatrician called me big-boned in front of my mom. My mom laughed it off. But I saw the way she looked at me. Like I was already a project." Her fingers twisted the edge of her notebook. "Kids picked up on it. Big-boned. Big girl." Then middle school came and it got uglier. Names. Pranks. I started eating lunch in the bathroom sometimes. Teachers would tell me to ignore them. So I did. I tried. Her voice softened. "You're the first person who ever stepped in. The first one who looked at me like a person and not a joke." Ethan swallowed hard. "You deserve more than one person standing up for you." He shrugged. "I'll settle for one good one." From then on, Ethan made a silent promise. If anyone came for Lena, they'd have to go through him first. He changed routes between classes to walk with her. He sat beside her on school trips. He took one shove in the hallway that was meant for her and almost got a black eye. He didn't care. He even confronted Chad once more in the locker room, quietly when no one else was there. "Knock it off," he said. "She's done nothing to you." Chad scoffed. "People like her? They're easy targets. That's all." Ethan stared him down. "One day," he said, "you're going to wish you hadn't been the villain in someone else's story." He walked away before Chad could answer. At graduation, Lena and Ethan hugged tightly. She was heading to a small state college on a scholarship for academic excellence. He was heading to community college, saving up, uncertain but hopeful. Chad posed at center stage in his Ravens jacket, smirking for the camera. Life split them all apart. Years rolled by. And the world started writing a twist no one saw coming. 10 years later, downtown Chicago gleamed with glass towers and rush-hour traffic. On the 29th floor of the Harbor Line Consulting Group building, a conference room buzzed with tension. A mid-sized logistics company from Ohio, Miller Freight Solutions, had arrived to pitch a strategic partnership, a deal that could save them from bankruptcy. At the head of their small delegation was Chad Miller. Now in his late 20s, Chad had traded jerseys for suits. He carried himself with the same confident smirk, but with a new layer of worry around his eyes. The family business had been spiraling for years. This contract was their lifeline. Beside him sat a quieter man in a simple gray blazer, Ethan Ward. Ethan had eventually transferred from community college, studied operations management, and worked his way up to a senior analyst role at Miller Freight. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. But he kept the company's numbers from collapsing more times than anyone knew. He also still thought sometimes about a girl named Lena and whether life had been kinder to her after high school. On the other side of the long conference table sat 3 executives from Harbor Line. In the center, a woman with dark hair in a low twist, sharp green eyes, and a navy suit that fit like it had been tailored to perfection. Her nameplate read, Dr. Elena Brooks, Senior Vice President, Strategic Partnerships. Chad didn't notice her name. He saw only an attractive woman with authority and decided charm might help. Ethan noticed the name. His heart stuttered. Elena Brooks. It couldn't be. The woman flipped open a file, glanced at Chad, then at Ethan, then back at her notes, her expression calm and unreadable. Mr. Miller, she began, thank you for coming all this way. Let's hear your proposal. Chad launched into a polished pitch. He bragged about his leadership. He painted a glowing picture of Miller Freight. He sprinkled in jokes, flashing his practiced grin. Ethan sat quietly, occasionally adding data when asked. Elena listened, hands folded, eyes steady. At one point she turned to Ethan. Mr. Ward, is it? She said. You built this forecast model? Yes, he said. It's impressive, she noted. Clear, realistic, honest. Chad cut in quickly. I guided him, of course. We work as a team. I set the direction, he crunches the numbers. Ethan kept his face neutral. Elena's gaze flicked to Chad for a second, then back to Ethan. Something in her eyes changed very slightly. A flicker of recognition buried deep. They continued for another hour. Questions. Projections. Risks. Opportunities. When it was done, Elena stood. Thank you, gentlemen, she said. We'll need a short internal discussion. Please wait outside. We'll call you back in shortly. Chad nodded, confident. Can't wait to work together. He slapped Ethan's shoulder as they stepped into the hallway. See? Chad grinned. We've got this. She liked me. Ethan wasn't so sure. His pulse was loud in his ears. The door closed behind them. Inside, Elena exhaled slowly. One of her colleagues asked, You okay? You went quiet at the end there. I'm fine, she said softly. I've just seen a ghost. 10 minutes later, a junior assistant opened the conference room door. Mr. Ward, she said. Dr. Brooks would like to speak with you. Alone. Chad frowned. What about me? She'll meet with you afterward, the assistant replied. Please wait here. Ethan swallowed and stepped back into the conference room, closing the door behind him. The room felt different now. Quieter. Suspended. Elena stood by the window, hands in her pockets, looking out over the city. Have a seat, Ethan, she said. He did. Her voice softened. Do you know who I am? He swallowed. I have a guess, he said. But I don't want to assume. She turned. For a moment, the poised executive mask slipped. Underneath, he saw her. The girl from table 12. The one who always pulled her sleeves down a little too far. I'm Lena, she said quietly. Lena Brooks. From Ridgeview. Oh my God, Linnea. He couldn't believe his eyes. His breath left him. It's you, he whispered. You look different. Thinner, she said wryly. Taller. Sharper jawline. He winced. I didn't mean. She smiled gently. It's okay. I know what you meant. He studied her, eyes full. I never forgot you, he said. I wondered sometimes if life was kinder to you after we left that place. She took a seat opposite him. It was hard, she said. College was better. Grad school was better still. I worked a lot. Learned to take up space without apologizing. Lost weight for health reasons, not for approval. And somewhere along the line, I built a life where I call the shots instead of dodging them. He smiled. I'm glad. She leaned forward, voice steady. I also never forgot you. You stood up for me when everyone else laughed. You told a bully he was the villain in someone's story. Do you remember that? Ethan blinked. I said that. You did, she nodded. You said one day he'd regret it. He looked down. Maybe that day came. The company is drowning. This deal is his last shot to look like a hero. Elena studied him. And you? She asked. Is this deal your last shot too? He considered. I need my job, he admitted. I help support my mom. She's not well. But if Miller Freight sinks, I'll find something else. I always do. Her eyes softened. You haven't changed, she said. Still carrying weight that isn't yours alone. He laughed quietly. Well, some habits stick. She took a breath. Ethan, I brought you back in because I need to tell you something before we decide. He stiffened. Okay. The numbers you brought, she said, are strong. Your plan to restructure routes, cut fuel waste, and renegotiate contracts could save that company in a year. He nodded. I've been fighting for those numbers for months. They're not perfect, but they're real. She held his gaze. Your boss, she said, didn't recognize me. He hasn't changed either. Still takes up space he hasn't earned. Silence settled between them. Here's the twist, she said gently. We are going to partner with Miller Freight, but under one condition. Ethan's heart pounded. You, she said, will not stay buried under his shadow anymore. He frowned. What do you mean? I mean, she replied, this deal moves forward only if Harborline gets to appoint a director of operations on site. Someone with integrity. Someone who understands both numbers and people. And I couldn't see any other person but you, Ethan, she added. He stared stunned. This is a promotion, he stammered. A huge one. Well, I don't have a fancy degree like most directors. Just a bachelor's and several years of experience. You have something more important, she said. Courage. Steadiness. A spine. He swallowed hard. And Chad, he asked quietly. What happens to him? Her eyes were thoughtful. I'm not here to destroy his life, she said. But I am here to stop him from running over others to protect his pride. With the new structure he reports to you. If he stays, it will be because he's willing to learn humility. Ethan didn't speak for a moment. You're doing all this because I stood up for you once? He finally asked. She shook her head. No, she said. I'm doing this because your kindness told me what kind of leader you'd be. You saw a girl everyone else made the punchline and treated her like a person whose story wasn't finished yet. She smiled softly. Now I get to tell you, your story isn't finished either. An hour later, the assistant called both men back into the room. Chad swaggered in confident. So, he said brightly, are we in business? Elena sat at the head of the table, flanked by two partners. Ethan took a seat to the side, folder closed in front of him. Yes, Elena replied calmly. Harborline will move forward with the partnership, provided our conditions are accepted. Chad's grin widened. Name them. We'll make it work. First, she said, we appoint a director of operations for the Miller Freight division. Mr. Ward will fill that role. The room went still. Chad blinked. Ward? He's my analyst. Not anymore, Elena replied. This partnership depends on his leadership. Our data shows his strategies are the reason your company is still standing. Chad's face flushed. You can't just. I can, she said calmly. And I have. She met his eyes and for the first time, let a glimmer of recognition show. You don't remember me, do you? She asked. He frowned. Should I? Ridgeview High, she said quietly. Table 12. Milk carton. His mouth parted. A faint memory surfaced. Of a heavier girl with tearful eyes, a cafeteria full of laughter and a quiet boy standing between them. Lena, he whispered. Elena, she corrected. Dr. Elena Brooks now. And no, I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to protect people who used to be me from people who used to be you. He dropped his gaze. For what it's worth. He muttered, I'm not proud of who I was. I believe you, she said. You can show the man you are now by working with integrity under Ethan's leadership. Or you can walk away from the deal. Silence stretched. Finally, Chad nodded. "I'll stay," he said quietly. "And I'll do the work." She nodded once. Meeting over, contracts in motion, people began to file out. Ethan lingered by the doorway. Chad stopped beside him, eyes tight. "You earned it," Chad said, words forced but sincere. "I gave you a hard time in high school. You still did right. Guess you beat me twice." Ethan gave a small smile. "It's not a competition anymore, Chad." Chad nodded and left, shoulders less square than before. Ethan turned back into the room. Elena stood alone, gathering her files. He stepped closer. "I don't know how to say thank you," he admitted. "You changed my life in there." She smiled softly. "You changed mine first," she said. "You just didn't know the ending yet." They walked out together into the busy Chicago afternoon. Two adults shaped by scars from a high school cafeteria, now standing tall in a world that once told them where they did and didn't belong. Kindness had circled back years later with interest in full circle. It doesn't just repay, it multiplies. Because sometimes the smallest act, one kid standing up, one person saying enough, doesn't end when the bell rings. It keeps moving, keeps growing until it walks back into your life in a suit and says, "Your story isn't over. Let's write the next part together." Kindness never expires. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story that reminds you what courage and compassion can do. Turn on notifications, because real kindness is happening every single day and you don't want to miss it. Drop a comment below with the words, "Kindness never expires." And please share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that standing up matters, that kindness counts, and that the smallest act today can change someone's entire tomorrow. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.